Welcome. Today, we are diving deep into a really fascinating and, frankly, a slightly absurd German tale. It's called Der Königssohn im Eselspelz,
Hmm.
or The King's Son in the Donkey Skin.
Mm.
And look, this is not your standard fairy tale. There's no fairy godmother, no simple magic wand to fix everything.
No, not at all.
We're looking at a story that really challenges our ideas
Mm.
about identity, about destiny, and uh, just the sheer amount of work it can take to become who you're supposed to be.
Right. And our mission today is to really pull out those key moments, those decisions and transformations. Because the whole point here is how this character sheds his unwanted form, not through some spell, but through action.
Through deliberate action, skill, and just this incredible strategic persistence.
It's an amazing premise right from the jump. And it all starts with this deep parental desperation.
Yeah.
You've got a king and queen, they have everything, wealth, power, but they don't have an heir. They're desperate for a child.
And when the child finally arrives, the story just hits you with this tragicomic twist.
It's not a human baby. The text says it's ein junges Eselein, a young donkey.
And the queen's reaction really sets the psychological tone. It's so heavy.
Oh, it's brutal.
She was already struggling, seeing herself as, fundamentally broken. She describes herself as ein Acker, auf dem nichts wächst.
A field where nothing grows.
Exactly. So then this donkey arrives, and her despair is just total. She wishes it would drown. She literally says she wants the fish to eat him.
She sees him as a curse, a total mockery of what she wanted.
But that's where the story turns, because the king's reaction is what changes everything.
It is the pivotal moment. He makes this completely radical choice. It's not what you expect in these stories.
Right.
He refuses to hide him or, get rid of him. He declares this absolute unshakable acceptance.
What does he say? Exactly.
He basically says, no, if God has given him, he shall also be my son and heir. And he even pushes it further. He makes it clear that this donkey will, and I'm quoting, sit on the royal throne and wear the royal crown after my death.
That is just. It's more than acceptance. It's a decree. But it's also a huge psychological burden, right?
A massive one.
So the Eselein is raised with all this privilege. He's promised a throne, but he's trapped in this impossible body. So the real question for us is, what drives his transformation? Is it just fate or something else?
Oh, it's definitely something else. It's internal action, absolutely. And this is where we find our first real insight. The donkey has to actively build a life that justifies a destiny his body completely denies.
So what was he like as a kid?
Well, the source says that as he grew, his ears grew fin hoch und grad hinauf, finally high and straight up, and that he was naturally of a fröhlicher art.
So it's cheerful and playful nature.
Exactly. But cheerfulness doesn't get you a kingdom.
Right. He wasn't just content to be like the pleasant royal donkey. He does something else.
He goes way beyond what you would expect. He develops a passion for music.
The lute.
The lute, yes. And he seeks out a famous minstrel to teach him. This is deliberate, targeted self-improvement. He's trying to cultivate a human kind of complexity.
And the minstrel's reaction just highlights the absurdity of it all.
The minstrel wasn't worried about the donkey's intelligence. He was worried about the physics of it.
The hooves.
The hooves. He looked at them and said the Eselein's fingers were gar zu groß, far too big. He was worried the delicate lute strings wouldn't hold up.
We need to just sit with that for a second. That's so powerful. The expert is telling him your very body is fundamentally incompatible with this goal.
Exactly. But the Eselein doesn't give up. And this is the skill that really matters, maybe even more than the music itself. Persistence.
Right.
The source is very specific here. It says he was beharrlich und fleißig.
Persistent and diligent.
And through that, he overcomes this huge physical barrier. The result, total mastery. He learns to play the lute, so gut als sein Meister selber.
As well as his master.
As well as his master.
So he uses this sheer force of will to acquire a refined, high-status skill, something that completely transcends his animal form. He now has this internal value that just completely contradicts his external appearance. And that competence, that's what gives him mobility.
Yeah.
It's his ticket out.
And that's exactly what happens. That new connection to the human world through skill is what causes his first big crisis.
The moment of self-awareness, it's so striking.
It is. He's walking thoughtfully, a very human thing to be doing, and he looks into a well, into the Spiegelhellenwasser.
Your mirror bright water.
And he sees his reflection, he sees the donkey form, and he's so distressed by that disconnect between who he feels he is inside and what he sees.
That he leaves. He chooses exile. He packs up, leaves the kingdom, his inheritance, everything, takes one loyal companion, and just goes.
He chooses to test this new identity he's built. So he arrives at another kingdom, an old king's court, and he insists on getting in. He tells the gatekeeper it is a guest outside.
I love that. Not a donkey, a guest.
Yeah.
And when the gatekeeper says no, he doesn't argue, he performs.
Right. This is the payoff for all that diligence.
Yeah.
He sits down, and you have to picture this. He plays the lute beautifully with his two front hooves, his vorderfeu.
The sound must have been incredible. The gatekeeper is just astonished. He runs to the king and says this donkey plays so gut als ein Gelandmeister.
As well as a learned master, skill literally opens the door for him.
But once that door is open, he doesn't just, shuffle in gratefully. He immediately starts making demands.
Yes, he establishes his boundaries. He demands royal respect. He will not be treated like some novelty act.
This confrontation is just magnificent. They try to put him in the stable with the servants.
And he refuses. He makes this incredibly noble declaration. Ich bin kein gemeines Eselein, ich bin ein vornehmes.
I am not a common stable donkey. I am a noble one.
And then he demands to sit at the king's table.
It's so audacious. He's leveraging his inherited nobility and his acquired skill against each other.
And the king, who is either amused or just deeply impressed, he accepts it. The donkey sits at the high table. And the source makes a point to tell us he behaves fein und säuberlich.
Finely and neatly.
Exactly.
So he's embodying this perfect courtly behavior while still being a donkey. He's forced them all to acknowledge his internal identity over his external form.
That is a lesson right there. Sometimes you have to force the world to accommodate your competence.
Absolutely. But even after all this success, he's still wearing the skin. The change isn't permanent.
Right. So after a while at court, he grows sad again and asks to leave. And this throws the king into a panic. He doesn't want to lose his star attraction.
So the king tries to buy his loyalty. He offers him everything.
Everything. Willst du Gold? Willst du Kostbarkeiten und Schmuck? Willst du mein Habesreich?
Gold, treasures, jewels, even half the kingdom.
And the Eselein's response to all of this is just to shake his head. Nein.
It's fascinating. His goal was never just money. It was strategic.
Completely. He already has an inheritance waiting for him. He doesn't need wealth. He needs something else.
He needs permanence.
He needs a place in the human world, a lineage.
So only when the king, as a last resort, offers his beautiful daughter as a wife.
Then he becomes ganz lustig und guter Ding, quite merry and in good spirit.
That was the goal all along. Securing a future, a bloodline, it's the ultimate strategic move.
And this leads directly to the reveal. The wedding night arrives, and the king is, wisely a little suspicious. He tells a servant to hide in the chamber and watch.
Smart king.
Very. So the Eselein locks the door, makes sure they're alone, and then he takes off his Eselschaut, his donkey skin.
And he's revealed, not just as a man, but as a schöner königlicher Jüngling.
A beautiful royal youth. And he says to his bride that he's not unworthy of her, which speaks volumes about his own self-worth, right?
Oh, absolutely. That confidence comes from his skill, from his persistence. The bride, of course, is overjoyed.
But he has to put the skin back on before morning. The secret isn't fully out yet.
So the next day, the king asks his daughter if she's sad, if she regrets marrying this ordinary animal.
And she says no. She confirms she loves him as deeply as if he were the most handsome man alive.
So at that point, he's secured his human future, on merit, on character, on love, even while still wearing the symbol of his curse.
But his own actions aren't quite enough to make it permanent. The servant goes and tells the king everything.
And the king is skeptical, but the servant pushes him. He acts as the catalyst for the final, irreversible act.
He says, watch tomorrow night, and then take the skin and bring it. Force him to stay in his true form.
This is the climax.
Uh-huh.
It shows that while, being ready yourself is necessary, taking the skin off willingly.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need an external force to destroy any chance of going back.
A violent intervention, really. So the king does it. He watches in the moonlight. He sees the sleeping prince and the skin lying there, just stripped off on the ground.
And he knows this is it, the point of no return.
He takes the skin. He orders a gewaltig Feuer, a huge fire built outside, and he watches until that skin is ganz zu Asche verbrannt.
Completely burned to ash.
The symbol of the past, the curse, it has to be utterly and violently destroyed.
And the prince's reaction when he wakes up is pure panic.
Pure panic. He can't find the skin and he assumes his life is ruined, that he has to flee. It shows that even when you're ready for the change, that final push can be terrifying.
But the king steps in. He stops him, says he knows the truth, and offers him half the kingdom right there on the spot to make him stay.
And the prince, seeing the choice has been made for him and that it's a good one, he accepts. He says he hopes that the good beginning also takes a good end.
And it does. He gets half the realm, then the whole realm, and then his own father's kingdom too. He lives in aller Herrlichkeit, all glory.
So if we boil it all down, what we have is this incredible story about self-determination. The character earns his own worth first.
Right. Then he strategically secures his position.
And then finally, he needs an ally to come in and violently sever that last tie to his old self. The magic of the original curse was basically powerless against his diligence.
Absolutely. The donkey skin, his external form, it was irrelevant to his royal entity and, more importantly, to his hard-earned skill.
This story really shows us that preparation, that persistence with the lute, the self-reflection in the water, the strategy behind the marriage, that's what makes the difference. It turns a curse into just a temporary inconvenience.
So the takeaway for you, listening, is this. The Eselein had to earn the right to get rid of the skin. He had to prove his worth first, even while he was still wearing it. He made himself ready for the reveal.
But that final permanent transformation wasn't achieved by him alone. It was the intervention of that critical ally, the king, who understood that to truly secure the future, the symbol of the past had to be completely destroyed. So it forces you to ask a question. What is the donkey skin in your own life? That habit, that limiting belief, that identity you hide behind? And do you need a trusted ally to help you burn it, to secure the future that you've already proven you deserve? You might be ready, but sometimes it's the destruction of the option to retreat that finally seals the deal.